Hi everyone, today we are going to explore the basics of HTML. By the end of this tutorial, you will understand basics of HTML, how it works and how to create a simple web page. So what exactly is HTML? HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It's the language that structures and organizes content on the web. Think of a HTML as the skeleton of a web page. HTML elements define things like headings, paragraphs, links, and more. This is how your browser knows how to display text, images, and links in a web page. Now let's look at the basic structure of an HTML page. Here's the simple example. Let me walk you through each part. The first tag is doctype HTML. This tells the browser that the document is written in HTML5, the latest version of HTML. And the second tag, this is the root element of our web page. All the HTML code goes between this tag. This is the HTML tag. And the third tag, head tag. Inside the head tag, we include information about the page like its title. And the fourth tag, title. This tag sets the title shown on the browser tab. Every web page should have a title that effectively describes its content. This is where the title element comes in. The title isn't just for show, it's really important for search engine optimization. Search engines use the text from the title to determine how to rank pages in their search results. So what exactly does the title element do? First, it defines the title that you see in the browser toolbar. Second, it provides a title when the page is saved to favorites. And lastly, it displays the title in search engine results. And the fifth tag is a body tag. This is where the main content of the page goes, like headings, paragraphs, images, and links. Everything inside the body tag will be displayed on the web page. Now let's create a simple web page. You can use a text editor like Notepad on Windows or TextEdit on Mac or Visual Studio Code. I am using VS Code. If you are using Notepad, open Notepad or TextEdit. Write the HTML code, just type the code into the editor. Save your HTML page. Name the file as you wish. I'm giving index.html with extension .html. To open in a browser, first you find the file on your computer, double click it or right click and choose the open with your preferred browser. Your page should open up and display your heading and paragraph. This is your first web page. If you are using VS Code, same, create a file with extension .html and write the code as and save it, and using live server you can open it. HTML elements. First let's talk about HTML elements. An HTML element starts with a tag, includes some content and ends with another tag. You can picture it like this. Tag name and content goes here and tag closed. For example, we have these elements: h1 tag, my first heading, and p tag, my first paragraph. So here is how it breaks down. The starting tag is h1 and the content is my first heading, and the end tag is h1. Some elements like a br tag, which is used for break, don't have any content or an end tag. We call these tags are empty elements. Now nested HTML elements. HTML elements can also be nested inside each other. This means one element can be inside another. For example, this HTML document has 4 elements: HTML tag and body, h1 and p. The HTML element is the main element for the entire document. It starts with HTML and ends with HTML. Inside HTML we have the body element, which also has a start and end tag. Inside body we have 2 other elements, h1 for heading and p for paragraphs. Don't forget the end tag. Sometimes if you forget to close an element with an end tag, it might still look okay, but it's risky. You might run into an unexpected problem later on, so always include end tags. Remember, elements with no content like a break tag are empty. HTML is not case sensitive. HTML tags can be written in any case, capital P and a small p. Mean the same thing, but it's a good idea to use lowercase for consistency. Headings. HTML headings range from h1 to h6. Use headings to organize your content. Here is how they look. H1 is for main headings and H2 is for subheadings. H3 to H6 for smaller headings, and H6 is the smallest heading. Here you can see the output. And the paragraphs. P tag is used for paragraphs. Each paragraph starts on a new line. Horizontal rules. You can use the HR tag to create a horizontal line that separates content. It's an empty tag, so it doesn't need an end tag. Line breaks. BR tag creates a line break without starting a new paragraph. Pre-formatted text. If you want to keep your text exactly as you typed it, including spaces and line breaks, use the pre tag. Styles and colors. You can use the style attribute to set background colors, text colors, and font styles. Here are some examples. Text formatting. HTML also has a formatting tags for special text styles like bold and italic. B for bold text, I for italic text, mark for highlighted text, and use subtag for subscript and SUP tag for superscript. You can add comments in your HTML code using this syntax. These comments won't be visible in the browser but can help you remember things or organize your code. HTML links. So let's talk about HTML links. You'll find links on almost every web page. They let you click around from one page to another. In HTML, we call these links hyperlinks. You can click a link and jump right to another document. If you hover your mouse over a link, you will see the mouse pointer changing into a little hand. And just so you know, links don't always have to be text. They can also be images or any other HTML element. To create a link in HTML, we use the anchor tag like this. The most important part here is the href attribute, which tells us where the link is going to take us. The link text is what people will actually see and click on. When someone clicks the link text, they will be sent to the address you specified. By default, links look a certain way in browsers. An unvisited link is underlined in blue. A visited link is underlined in purple. An active link, the one you currently clicking on, is underlined in red. Now if you want a link to open somewhere other than the current window, you can use the target attribute. The options for the target attribute are self. This is the default. It opens the link in the same window or tab. Blank. This opens the link in a new window or a tab. Parent. This opens the link in the parent frame. You can also use an image as a link. Just place the image tag inside the anchor tag. Use the anchor element to define a link. Use the href attribute to specify where the link goes. Use the target attribute to choose where to open the linked page. Use the image element inside anchor if you want to link an image. Use mail to in the href for email links. Now HTML images. Images can really make a web page look great. The HTML image tag is what we use to put an image on a web page. Remember, images aren't actually inserted, they are linked to the web page. The image tag creates a space for the image. This tag doesn't have a closing tag and requires two attributes. Source. This tells where to find the image. Alternate. This provides an alternative text for the image. The source attribute is important because it's point to where the image is located. If the browser can't find the image, it will show a broken link icon along with the alt text. So now move to HTML tables. Tables, they help us to organize data in a neat way using rows and columns. In this example, each part of the table is made up of table cells. We define a cell using TD tag, which stands for table data. Everything between TD tag is what goes into the cell. And remember, you can put many different things in the table cell like text, images, or even other tables. Each row stands with a tier tag and ends with a tier tag, which stands for table row. You can add as many rows as you like. Just make sure each row has the same number of cells. Sometimes we want to highlight the header of our table. We can do this using the th tag instead of td. This tag stands for table header. The text in header cells is bold and centered by default, but we can change that with some CSS if you want. We can also add headers for each column or row. Each header is defined with a th tag. By default, these headers are bold and centered, but if you want them to left aligned, you can use CSS like this, text align left. Now sometimes we might want a header that covers multiple columns. We do this with the call span attribute in the th tag. Finally, we can add a caption to our table. This serves as a title for the entire table. We do this with the caption tag, and that's it for HTML tables. They are great way to organize and present data in our web pages. And now HTML lists. These are used to group related items together. Types. Unordered list. This is a list that doesn't have a specific order. We start it with the UL tag, and each time in the list starts with the li tag. By default, the items will have a bullets. And the second type, ordered list. This is a list where the order matters, like steps in a recipe. We start this list with a OL tag, and like before, each item starts with the li tag. The items are numbered by default. And the description list, these are a bit different. A description list is where we have a term and then describe it. We use the DL tag for the list and DT tag for term and DD for the description. The important tags to remember are UL for unordered list, OL for ordered list, LI for list items, DL for description list, DT for the description list terms, DD for the description of those terms. By default, unordered list uses bullet points, but we can change how the bullet looks using the list style type property. Some options are disk for bullets, circle for hollow circles, square for square markers, none for no markers at all. You can see in the example. You can even create a nested list, which means you can have a list inside another list. Here is an example. Use UL for unordered lists and OL for an ordered list. Remember to use LI for list items. You can nest lists and style them with the CSS to change their appearance. You can also control how the ordered lists are numbered using the type attribute. HTML attributes. Attributes add extra information about an element and are found in the start tag. For example, the anchor tag creates a link and the href attribute tells where the link goes. The src attribute in the image tag shows the path to an image. You can use two types of URLs, absolute URL or relative URL. And width and height attributes. For images, you can also specify width and height. The alt attribute. The alt attribute describes the image if it can't be shown. This is helpful for screen readers too. The style attribute. The style attribute lets you add styles like colors and sizes to an element. The lang attribute. It's a good idea to include the lang attribute in your HTML tag to specify the language of your page. For example, for English, we included lang is equals to en in HTML tag. The title attribute gives extra information about an element and shows up as a tooltip when you hover over it. The two most common display values you will come across the block and inline. A block level element always begins on a new line. For example, think about the p tag and div tag. The p element is used for defining a paragraph in a HTML document, and the div element is there to define a division or section in your document. Both of these are block level elements. An inline element is different because it doesn't start on a new line. It only takes up as much width as it needs. For instance, span. And some common inline elements: anchor tag, bold text tag, image tags. A block level element always begins on a new line. You will notice that browsers automatically add some space or margin before and after these elements. This means they take up the full width of the container, stretching all the way to the left and right. For example, think about the p tag and div elements. The div is often used as a container for other HTML elements. It doesn't require any attributes, but it's common to see attributes like style, class, and ID used with it. When you pair it with the CSS, the div becomes super useful for styling. Span element. This one is an inline container used to mark up a part of text or a section of a document. Just like the div, it doesn't require attributes, but style, class, and ID are common. When you use CSS with a span, you can style specific parts of your text. Remember, a block level element starts on a new line and takes up the full width available. An inline element doesn't start on a new line and only takes up as much width as necessary. The div is a block level element used to contain other HTML elements. The span is an inline container that helps you style parts of your text. Next, HTML forms. HTML forms are essential tools on websites used to collect user input. For example, when you fill out a form with your first name and last name, that information is gathered and often sent to a server for processing. The form element is like a container that holds different input fields where user can enter their information. Inside this form, you can have various elements like text boxes, checkboxes, and buttons. Basic attributes of forms are action attribute, target attribute, and method attribute. Action attribute, this tells the browser where to send the form data when you submit. Target attribute, this specifies where the response will appear after submission. Method attribute, this indicates how the form data should be sent to the server. The input element, this is the most common element and it can take many forms depending on its type, like text fields, checkboxes, or buttons. Examples of input types: text field. For single line input, radio button allows user to select one option from a group. Checkbox, let user select multiple options. Label element, this tag is important for accessibility. It provides a description for form elements. When user clicks on the label, it will also focus on the associated input field. Select element, this creates a drop down list for users to choose from multiple options. You can also allow multiple selections with multiple attribute. Text area element, this allows for multiple text input, great for longer responses. Button element, you can create the clickable buttons that perform actions like submitting the form or running a script. The field set and legend elements, these are used to group related items within a form, making it easier for users to understand the organization of the data being collected. The data list element, this provides a list of predefined options that can appear as the user types into an input field. Remember that when creating forms, each input field should have a name attribute so that the data can be correctly submitted. Basic input types. Button is used to create a button you can click. Checkbox, let user pick one or more options. Color, opens a color picker. Date, allows user to select a date from calendar. Email input type is for entering an email address. File is for let users upload files. Hidden is not visible to user but can store data. Image, uses an image as a submit button. Number, it is for your numeric input. Password, it hides the character you type, showing them as a dots or asterisks. Radio, it allows user to select one option from a group. Range, it creates a slider for selecting a number. Reset, it resets all the form fields back to the original values. Search, it is used for search fields. Tell, it is meant for phone numbers. Text, it is for regular text input. Time, it lets user select a time. URL, it is for entering a web address. Week, it allows a selection of week in the year. And if you don't specify a type, it defaults to text. And that brings us to the end of our HTML tutorial. Remember, practice is key. You can explore more at great resources like W3 Schools or MDN Web Docs. HTML is just the beginning. The next steps are CSS for styling and JavaScript for adding interactivity. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more tutorials. Happy coding and see you next time.